This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit librivox.org. Around the World in 72 Days by Nellie Bly. Chapter 18. The Record. I started from Hoboken on my trip around the world November 14, 1889. I finished it in Jersey, January 25, 1890. The itinerary of my trip, published the morning I started, and the itinerary as I found it, were as follows. November 14th. Leave New York by Augusta Victoria, 9:30 a.m. November 21st. Due Southampton. London by rail in 3 hours. November 22nd. Leave Victoria Station, London, 8 p.m. on India Mail. November 23rd. Calais, Paris, and Turin. November 24th. Brindisi at 10:14 p.m. November 25th. Leave Brindisi, steamship Cathay, 9 a.m. November 27th. Ismailia. December 3rd. Aden. December 10th. Colombo, Ceylon. December 16th. Penang. December 18th. Singapore. December 25th. Hong Kong. December 28th. Leave Hong Kong for Yokohama, Japan. January 7th. Leave Yokohama via Pacific Mail steamship. January 22nd. Due San Francisco. January 27th. Due New York. November 14th to January 27th. 75 days. The itinerary as I found it. November 14th. Left New York via Augusta Victoria. November 22nd, 2:30 a.m. Arrived Southampton, London. November 22nd, 10 o'clock a.m. Left London, Charing Cross Station. November 23rd, 1:30 a.m. Left Calais. November 25th, 1:30 a.m. Arrived Brindisi. 3 o'clock a.m. Left Brindisi, steamship Victoria. November 27th, 3:30 p.m. Arrived Port Said. November 28th, 11 o'clock a.m. Arrived Ismailia. 9 o'clock p.m. Suez. December 3rd, 11 o'clock. Arrived Aden. December 8th, 11 o'clock a.m. Arrived Colombo, Ceylon. December 16th, 7 o'clock a.m. Arrived Penang. December 18th, 5 o'clock a.m. Arrived Singapore. December 25th, 7 o'clock a.m. Arrived Hong Kong. December 28th, 2:30 p.m. Left Hong Kong for Yokohama. January 7th, 10:55 a.m. Left Yokohama via Occidental and Oriental steamship. January 21st, 8 o'clock a.m. Arrived San Francisco. January 23rd, 7:05 a.m. Arrived Chicago. January 25th, 3:51 p.m. Arrived New York. November 14th to January 25th, 72 days. The names of the steamers and the different routes by which I traveled were the Augusta Victoria of the Hamburg American Steamship Line, the London and Southwestern Railway, the Southeastern Railway, the India Mail, the Victoria, and the Oriental of the Peninsular and Oriental Steamship Line, the Oceanic of the Occidental and Oriental Steamship Line, the Southern Pacific Railway, the Atlantic and Pacific Railway, the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway, and the Pennsylvania Railway. I spent 56 days, 12 hours, and 41 minutes in actual travel, and lost by delay 15 days, 17 hours, and 30 minutes. The second table shows the miles traveled, hours spent in traveling, and hours delayed. The hours delayed, marked by a star, shows the time spent in diverging from my original line of travel to visit Monsieur and Madame Jules Verne at Amiens. I traveled 179.5 miles out of my way to visit the great novelist, which is not considered in my number of miles traveled, nor do I count the miles traveled at the ports where I was detained, which taken together would not fall short of 1,500 miles. Hoboken to Southampton, 3,041 miles, 184 hours 50 minutes traveling, 50 minutes delayed. To London, 90 miles, 2 hours 15 minutes traveling, 14 hours 25 minutes delayed, asterisk. To Brindisi, 1,450 miles, 53 hours 30 minutes traveling, 1 hour 30 minute delayed. To Port Said, 930 miles, 62 hours 30 minutes traveling, 3 hours 30 minutes delayed. To Aden, 1,394 miles, 110 hours traveling, 6 hours delayed. To Colombo, 2,093 miles, 138 hours traveling, 98 hours 5 minutes delayed. To Penang, 1,278 miles, 89 hours 55 minutes traveling, 7 hours delayed. To Singapore, 381 miles, 39 hours traveling, 11 hours delayed. To Hong Kong, 1,437 miles, 111 hours traveling, 127 hours 20 minutes delayed. To Yokohama, 1,597 miles, 131 hours 40 minutes traveling, 104 hours 55 minutes delayed. To San Francisco, 4,525 miles, 333 hours 5 minutes traveling. To Chicago, 2,573 miles, 71 hours 5 minutes, 2 hours 55 minutes delayed. To Jersey City, 951 miles, 29 hours 51 minutes traveling. Total, 21,740 miles, 1,356 hours 41 minutes traveling, 377 hours 30 minutes delayed. Total time occupied in tour, 1,734 hours and 11 minutes, being 72 days, 6 hours and 11 minutes. Average rate of speed per hour exclusive of stops, 22.47 miles. Average rate of speed including stops, 28.71 miles per hour. Up to date, my trip is the fastest on record between San Francisco and Chicago. One run was 250 miles in 250 minutes, and that counting the minutes lost stopping at half a dozen different towns. Another run was 59 miles in 50 minutes. Between Topeka and Kansas City, we ran 13 miles in 11 minutes. Later, we ran a mile in 53 seconds, and again 26 miles in 23 minutes. We made 2,566 miles in 69 hours, which is the fastest time, I am informed, that has been made for this distance. Although the Santa Fe route is over 500 miles longer than the Union Pacific, we beat the time of the fastest mail to Chicago by 10 hours. If we had had the same distance to travel, we would have beaten it by 24 hours. The Santa Fe had only one day to prepare for my trip, and yet everything was perfect. They tell me when the Palmer-Jarrett across the continent trip was made, they had been preparing for it for 6 months in advance, and when the start was made a flagman was posted at every switch and crossing between New York and San Francisco, and yet without any preparations my train traveled 500 miles farther and beat their time by 24 hours. It is not possible to quote my fares and expenses as a criterion for prospective tourists, as I was traveling for a newspaper, and what it cost is their secret. Not counting the extra train, if first-class tickets had been bought from New York to New York, it would only have cost $805. By using economy, outside expenses should not exceed $300. On my tour I traversed the following waters: North River, New York Bay, Atlantic Ocean, English Channel, Adriatic Sea, Ionian Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Suez Canal, Gulf of Suez, Red Sea, Straits of Bab el-Mandeb, Gulf of Aden, Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean, Straits of Malacca, China Sea, Pacific Ocean, San Francisco Bay. I visited or passed through the following countries: England, France, Italy, Egypt, Japan, the United States, and the following British possessions: Aden, Arabia; Colombo, Isle of Ceylon; Penang, Prince of Wales Island; Singapore, Malay Peninsula, and the island of Hong Kong. L'Envoi. To so many people this wide world over am I indebted for kindnesses that I cannot, in a little book like this, thank them all individually. They form a chain around the earth. To each and all of you, men, women, and children, in my land and in the lands I visited, I am most truly grateful. Every kind act and thought, if but an unuttered wish, a cheer, a tiny flower, is embedded in my memory as one of the pleasant things of my novel tour. From you and from all those who read the chronicle of my trip, I beg indulgence. These pages have been written in the spare moments snatched from the exactions of a busy life. End of chapter 18. End of Around the World in 72 Days by Nellie Bly.